This video technically contains spoilers for the teasers for the Disciples of Aren Geih. If you'd prefer to know a bit about the game before watching this, please go watch the teasers. I'll also be touching on some information that's only available in the Discord server, which will be linked in the description, and some information that is no longer easily accessible in the server but is documented. But technically speaking, nothing in this video will be actual spoilers unless you view the game teasers as spoilers. Recently, the third teaser for the Disciples of Aren Geih came out, and it's the most interesting teaser by far. I thought I'd sit down and write a little analysis just to pick out all the details from it, and then I took my 2,000 word ramblings and put them into an actual doc because I thought it might be neat to make this into an actual video. The game gets more publicity, I get to do some analysis, and I get to talk about Wayward. Win! I love Wayward, he's lovely, best character. Anyways, to give a brief synopsis of the game in case this is the first you're hearing of it, The Disciples of Aren Geih is a game in which everything is decided by random chance. The premise written by Molecular Development reads, on a random island, in the year 22XX, there lives a deranged cult worshipping the god of Aren Geih, a god of nature, whom they believe to command them through random chance. The game follows an ordinary guy who gets roped into a holy quest by an insane cult and has to use a sacred artifact that sometimes helps but most often hinders him along the way. Aren must journey into dangerous territory long untouched to a long-forgotten site on the other side of the island, and encounters many strange and eccentric characters, enemies, and hazards along the way. Throughout his journey, he also learns forgotten history about the cult, the island, and his people, and comes to understand the true significance of this quest. If Aren wants to succeed, he's gonna have to make the best of the hand dealt to him by the universe to survive. Everything is randomized and up to the prismatic dice to decide. From your stats at the start of any given battle to your ability to read a sign, you'll need a tinge of luck to succeed. Will you finish your journey a hero, or will you die trying as you roll a 1 at the worst possible moment? This is as much surface information as we have now. Now, for the teaser. The teaser is a redux of the original teaser for the game, which showcased a cutscene with the best character, Wayward. The original teaser started in the same room and just showed the initial encounter cutscene in the very beginning of the fight. The Redux shows this room before it, which is a log puzzle. If we pause in this room, we see several logs, some rocks, some ditches, we see a couple of brown plants, some flowers, a stone pedestal with a book on it, and a bell. I'm unsure of why there's a bell, unless it serves a similar purpose to the bell in a puzzle zone in Undertale, a game which the devs are rather familiar with, to say the least. If we unpause, we see Aren interact with one of the brown plants, and he collects something from it, seen in the bottom left corner. It seems to be some sort of fruit, which is red with yellow dots and leaves or a stem that is similar to the plant. They appear similar to the plants and fruit seen in the thumbnail of Teaser 2. In the server, there used to be a channel called Grassland's Flora Guide, and it had 2 fruits listed. One fits the depiction of the fruit, and it reads, boomberries are bright red berries that don't seem to be native to this island. You shouldn't consume them though, because if they're put under pressure, they explode. Even without external influences, the explosion is enough to destroy weaker boulders. Now, we haven't seen Aren eat any, but the berries seen in the teaser are red, and they're used to remove rocks from the puzzle so it can be completed, so I'd say it's safe to presume these are boomberries. When Aren moves into the puzzle area to work on it, we can see that the book on the pedestal opens when he's near it and closes when he walks away. The puzzle itself seems to be destroying rocks so that you can push the logs around so that you can get past them or push them into the ditches to walk over them. The puzzle seems to function similar to something else seen in the second teaser, but this is an actual puzzle compared to just pushing a single log out of the way. Seemingly, Aren can't jump over or climb out of the ditch. Kind of strange if this implies he isn't super fit. Why did the disciples choose him? But I'm getting a bit off topic here. When Aren completes the puzzle, an icon in the bottom right corner appears, an opening and closing book. Possibly an autosave? Which might imply the pedestal with a book that opens when Aren is near it function as a save point? Unsure. Aren then proceeds to a chest at the top of the maze. Opening it triggers a dexterity check, which rolls a d20. He rolls high enough to open it and obtains a can of Shakium. Shakium was first seen in the second teaser, but Brix, the lead developer for the Disciples of Aren Geih, had it as his Discord status for a while before then. Someone had asked if Shakium was related to something else he was doing, and Brix had replied it was a reference to his game. It was then seen in the item menu during the second teaser, labeled as a Shakium can. We don't see the description long enough to read it normally, but if you slow it down, you can read it. In this teaser, though, the menu is showcased more, and the Shakium can is selected, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. We can see multiple submenus in this menu: items, weapons, equip, R cards, and keys. We can also see inventory, settings, crafting, and exit. R cards is interesting. I'm not sure what R stands for. Rare? Red? Roll? Region? I don't know. The menu also shows Aren's stats. He has 285 hash, which is the currency sign of this world. He's level 1, and he has 280 XP, and underneath it says next 300, which either means he only needs 20 more XP to level up, or he needs 300 more XP, but it'd make a lot more sense to be the former. Aren's HP, health points, is determined by a d6. His SP, special points, super points, some sort of magic points, I don't know, is determined by a d4. His speed is determined by a d4, and RFLX, reflex? Probably overworld interactions and stuff, is determined by a d20. His defense is 5%, which might mean he has a 5% chance of completely guarding against an oncoming attack, or significantly lowering the damage of an oncoming attack. XP plus is plus 0%. Because it's unlikely he's gaining no XP, XP plus probably refers to bonus XP after the normal amount. Now, back to Shakium from the items menu. Its description is the same in both teasers, reading, "A canister filled with a chemical substance. Shake it and throw it like a grenade, and on impact, it'll explode." However, in this latest teaser, we see that items have multiple pages of description. The second page says, "The substance is quite versatile, and if you add something to it, you can easily change its properties." Perhaps in-game you'll be able to use the crafting mechanic to combine other items with the Shakium to make new functions. What if, for instance, you added a boomberry? Would it cause a bigger explosion or more damage? Or just explode the whole can? Probably explode the whole can. Sorry to the poor chemist who found that one out the hard way. While we're still in the item menu, we can see multiple other items. The first item is a sacred cookie. The second item is HP pills, and so is the third. The fourth is the similarly named SP pills, which would likely serve a similar purpose to the HP pills. The fifth is more HP pills, and the sixth item was the Shakium can. The seventh slot is empty. We can see the descriptions of these items too as Aren scrolls past them to get to the Shakium. The sacred cookie is a sugary but bland cookie, supposedly blessed by Aren Geih. If it's a sacred cookie, perhaps it's typically utilized in some sort of service the disciples perform? The HP pills are a bottle of pills that miraculously restore your HP. They're made by enchanting general sugar pills, or something like that. The SP pills have a similar description, reading, "A bottle of pills that miraculously restore your SP." They're made by enchanting general sugar pills, or something like that. So basically the same as the HP pills, save for indicating the correct value. Scrolling back up, the other pages for many items are shown. The HP pills second page says, recovers 3 SP on consumption, in what I'm going to refer to as brackets. HP pills should not recover SP, so this was likely a typo or a similar error. I asked about it, and it sounds like it's correct in game, so it was just a bug. Then it shows the second page for SP pills, which correctly reads, recovers 3 SP on consumption. The Sacred Cookie's second page says, restores 1 HP, 2 SP. The brackets probably give a clear-cut explanation for the function of each item so as to not confuse the player. We then move on to weapons. Here, there are 6 slots, and 5 of them are filled. The first slot is Jab, which is an attacking move, not a weapon, but that's besides the point. The second is Vine Whip. That's a Pokemon attack. Can I send Aren out in a Pokemon battle saying, Aren, I choose you, and then tell him to use Vine Whip? Anyways. The third is Stick Bow, the fourth is Magic Missile, and the fifth is Firecast, and the sixth remains empty. Notably, the shotgun we see in the first teaser against Wayward isn't listed here. Has it been relocated in the game, or has it been simply removed entirely? The description for Jab reads, wildly swing and jab the sacred sword to deal consistent low damage. Another Pokemon move. Another weapon, but it's not in the weapons menu. It instead has an attack in its place. and the description of the attack mentions two sorts of attacks, swinging and jabbing. Odd. The next page reads, no matter what, you can always rely on your sword skill, which may imply Aren has some experience with swordplay before being sent on a random epic quest. Oh, nope. The next page says, or lack thereof. The final page says, in brackets, cannot be unequipped, 1d6 damage. That means it rolls one 6-sided die to determine damage. This definitely means this is a starter attack, or weapon, or whatever, which you can also see in the fact that it explains what a d6 is. Moving on, the description for Vine Whip says, a long vine that snagged on a fragment of a Terra Golem shell. You were able to tighten it a bit, and now it's a viable weapon. A Terra Golem. This is the first we hear of that. I'm unsure if Terra Golems would be an enemy or passive. The fact that Aren was able to get close enough to retrieve something off its shell would imply it's not attacking him, but it's also possible Aren defeated the Terra Golem first and then took the vine. Hypothetically, a Terra Golem might not be an NPC or an enemy at all, but instead something akin to the Snorlax roadblocks in the earlier Pokemon games? We don't have enough information to go off of, though. The next page for Vine Whip reads, as a whip, it'll inflict more damage if your speed is higher. Whips seem to be a type of weapon, and the Vine Whip seems to be a type in that category. All whips seem to get extra damage based on speed in addition to whatever the typical roll is. The third page says 1d6 damage and inflicts bonus damage equal to the base 2 logarithm of your speed rounded down. So with a d4, the bonus damage could be 0, 1, 1.5, which rounded down is still 1, and 2, in order of rolling from a 1 to a 4. Yay, math. Next, the description for the stick bow says, a shoddy bow put together out of loose sticks and a string. Somehow, it works. How do you make a bow out of loose sticks and string? That sounds like it'd fall apart the first time you draw it. The next page says, the type of arrow launched depends on the quiver is currently equipped, if any. Grammatical error should be the quiver that is currently equipped, but this means that you'd be able to use special arrows that would probably have different effects, which will be cool. If multiple quivers are picked, one will be chosen from at random on each use. I like this. This is cool. If you can't make a decision, you don't have to. And it's random, so it fits with the game. The final page says 1d8, d20 greater than 5 accuracy. So it looks like it'll roll a d8 for damage and a d20 for accuracy. I think it hit as long as the d20 rolls above 5. Aren doesn't look at the descriptions for Magic Missile or Firecast, and instead moves on to equips. There's only one thing in this menu, the Shoulder Armor Plus. A second, attachable layer of shoulder armor that clicks onto the one you're already wearing. It's not much, but it's something. So is there like one uniform type for regular shoulder armor? Or did Aren just get really lucky and find shoulder armor additions that fit with what he already had? The second page says, slightly increases the chances of getting a damage save. Does a damage save reduce damage you would have taken, or nullify it? Then the empty slot is scrolled over, showing it just says NA, which makes sense. And then the page to actually equip items and equipments is pulled up, showing the Shoulder Armor Plus is equipped, but the basic quiver is not. This quiver is new, and the description reads, a quiver full of basic, generic, stock standard arrows. The quiver is moved to the main equip menu, and the second page of the description says, if equipped, your bow will fire regular arrows. Then, the equips menu is closed and the key menu is shown, which seems to be key items. The items inside are the prismatic dice, the sacred sword, and the dice bag. The prismatic dice are described as a magical set of dice historically wielded by all envoys of the dice before you on all their epic pilgrimages. Does this mean that this is some sort of generational quest? There's clearly been past envoys of the dice, and they all went on pilgrimages. According to Alan's info file, it says he is a nobody who is thrust into an adventure he doesn't understand, so he doesn't seem to have been previously affiliated with the disciples until now. So are envoys prophesized or chosen in some manner? The second page says, the random chance they may amplify or diminish their users' abilities and stats. The two ands are definitely a mistake, as there's no and stats seen so far. Third page says, that seems like a horrible idea and you're not sure why you're going along with it. So clearly Alen is not a dedicated disciple who is devoted to the cause or whatever. The set contains a single D4, D6, D12, D16, and D20, but rather than being rolled directly, the dice project themselves holographically, and those projections in turn are rolled. Why does the set even have physical dice if they're just going to project holograms? Also, the disciples don't seem to use percentile dice. The key menu is then closed without examining the sacred sword or the dice bag, but Alan's info file mentions the sacred sword, describing it as an honorary gift from the great diecaster, which means it's probably the starter weapon and he's either not willing or not able to discard it, which would explain why Jab can't be replaced. The dice bag probably just holds the dice and isn't too important, but it's strange that they're listed separately. Is the dice bag for other dice? I find it unlikely, but it's possible. The UI is then closed and Alan proceeds to the next room. This room has been changed since the first teaser, and the fact that it was changed was seen during the second teaser briefly, but this is the first time we see the new version of the room explored. Originally, you entered the room from the top, had to go left to see the regular sign, and down and around a larger brick wall to go past with a road sign on the other side. Now you enter the room from the left, the regular sign is above the path, and the brick wall is smaller and more believable, still with the road sign on the other side of the wall. Alan heads up to interact with the regular sign, doing a perception check, rolling a d20. He rolls high enough to read it, and interacting with it says, "It's a sign. The area up ahead is under the domain of the Amper Core. Step no further, lest you invoke our rage." The text appears to have been scrawled on chaotically. This text has been updated because in the first teaser it said, "It's a sign. The area up ahead is under the domain of the Amper Core. Do not go any further, lest you invoke our rage." The text is written in a handwritten scrawl. This sign was a point of confusion in the past, and I'm glad it's now scrawled on chaotically instead of handwritten. Wayward doesn't have hands, silly. Alan continues onward along the path, and then the sign gains eyes, yells at Alan, runs into him, and knocks him over. Alan, reasonably, is rattled, while the sign tells him to stop where he is. Don't think you're a stop sign, dude, but alright. The sign then asks not to go through with whatever's happening. Alan is just kind of confused as the sign declares he's trespassing on official Amper Core territory, and that he'll soon feel their wrath. The sign then introduces himself, saying his name is Wayward. Welcome, best character. The name in the text boxes has now changed from 3 question marks to Wayward in all capitals. He also says he was been assigned the task of destroying Alan. When Wayward is speaking, the text box alternates between using Wayward in all caps and Wayward in no caps, just like his dialogue, and the first character in the text box points in a different direction to create a differentiation. I really like the text box details. I love it when games note little things like this. Anyways, Wayward argues with himself on actually going through with this and declares this is his chance to finally become a respected member of the Amper Core. And then he tells himself there is no Amper Core and that someone just made it up to manipulate him. Wayward then declares he's too mistrustful of others and that he's going to destroy Alan and become the Major General of the totally not made up Amper Core, of course. Wayward declares he has to amount to something in life, same bestie, and then he says that he spontaneously existed, which is very interesting to me, but I'll come back to that later. He declares that if he joins the Amper Core, he can attain the High Honor. I love how his sprite changes while he says High Honor. Alan, weirded out, asks if he can leave. Coward! No! You'll stay here and die by Wayward's hand. Wait, handwriting. He doesn't have hands. He's incapable of hands. I don't know why this is a big deal, but it's a big deal. Why did they do this? Anyways, Wayward declares he'll bathe in the blood of his enemy, which scares Alan, and Wayward's sprite goes a little spooky, and then the battle begins. An initiative roll is performed to determine 4 of Alan's stats. HP was rolled as a 1, so he opens the item menu to grab something to heal a bit higher. We can see here that the top of the menu shows what the item does with no added details. The Sacred Cookie, abbreviated to S-Cookie, says it heals 1 HP, 2 SP, as mentioned earlier, and the HP pills say plus 3 HP. The HP pills are selected, and then another page comes up. It still has the plus 3 from before, but it asks who you're using it on, with the only option being self. Either this is a safety, or perhaps there will be battles where you can have allies with you who you might be able to heal as well. Using the HP pills, he restores 3 HP, which reveals that even if you roll a 1 for health, you can still heal above the roll. I wonder if you can heal even if you roll a 6, or if it caps out at the max die roll. Wayward then attacks for 1 damage, which isn't a whole lot, but it's rather bad if you rolled low. Luckily, Aren heals, which showcases that you have to think about what you do with the cards that you're dealt. Well, dice that are rolled. You get the gist. The flavor text says, "Smells like sawdust." The one type of flavor text that appears in every Undertale fan game ever. Joking. Kind of. Aren then goes to the Mind menu, which has 3 options. Inspect, Focus, and Sign Spit. Inspect's mini description says, inspect an enemy, and that's exactly what Aren does. There's another target selection menu like before, and now inspect an enemy has changed to a d20, which is what's rolled. The information for inspecting Wayward comes up, showing his HP is 24 out of 24, and that he has 4 out of 4 SP. Then it says, a Kineko formed from a 2-headed signpost. He has been hired by the Amber Corps to protect this territory. Don't let his madness confuse you. If you can't see straight, take a breather and focus. This is interesting. Well, the first part anyhow. This is where we come back to the spontaneously existed line. Kinekos seem to form, likely from previously existing objects, or possibly not only objects. We only have the one reference point as of now, but I'm sure we'll have more in the future. His info file says something similar, except it says, a deranged Kineko born from a 2-headed signpost instead of formed from a 2-headed signpost. This is likely a meaningless distinction, but it's interesting to me nonetheless. I find it likely that Kineko would be incredibly varied, but I wonder just how varied they might be. Anyways, moving on. Wayward dropkicked Aren, who successfully ignored the mechanical implications of such an action and stayed focused on the battle at hand. I, unlike him, will not ignore the mechanical implications and become distracted from the battle at hand. Does the post of his sign count as a leg? Posts on chairs and tables are called legs. According to a quick Google search, you can purchase legs for signs, so I'm gonna take that as a yes. Signs have legs. Yet another search shows that a dropkick is a wrestling move where the wrestler jumps and kicks the opponent with the soles of both feet. If we call the post of a sign a leg, then the closest he has to feet is the base of his sign, which I think is roughly equivalent, and as a result, I see 0 issues with the idea of Wayward dropkicking someone. Where was I? Oh, right, being different from Aren. Back to the battle. Aren goes to the Mind menu and uses Focus. The top line says it's plus D4 to a stat, and you can choose HP or SP to add to. Aren uses it to recover his HP. Then, when it's Wayward's turn, an icon pops up in the bottom left corner with a ding, indicating a damage save just occurred. That answers the question from earlier. It seems a damage save nullifies the attack and not just weakens it. Nice. Aren then goes to the Fight menu and scrolls all the way to Firecast so we can see the short descriptions of all the attacks, even the 2 we didn't see the main description for. Jab is basic, single target, which means there will be fights with multiple targets. Vine Whip says better with speed. Stick Bow says launch arrow. Magic Missiles is abbreviated to M-Missile and says damage with magic, which means it'll probably use SP. The final item is Firecast, which says reliable magic. Instead of using Firecast, M-Missile is selected. The roll is D4 plus 1, which means a maximum of 5 damage and a minimum of 2, which isn't bad at all. A hanging sign comes down from the box where Alan's stats are, and the sign shows minus 2 SP, so that's confirmed as being used. Now, this flavor text, I really don't like it. It says, deranged bickers, tired is barely listening. The biggest issue with this is that not only does it identify which head is doing what, it gives them individual names. It feels completely against the point of the character, and I really hope it gets changed to something else before the demo release. Or, that's what I would say if there hadn't been new footage shown in the Discord, in which the text is edited to say, the deranged one bickers, the tired one is barely listening, which I think is far better than it was. Aren then uses Jab, which rolls a d6, and Wayward's attack is to give Aren directions. He says, take a diagonal left up ahead, then go to Surrey Street, 5th Avenue, before crossing into the 4th dimension. According to the narration, it didn't make any sense, so Aren became dazed. But what about this didn't make any sense? Let's see. Taking a diagonal left is technically something you could do, as long as your left turn is in a 90-degree angle. Surrey Street is a real street in London, and so is Fifth Avenue. While they're roughly an hour apart, the directions seem to indicate you'd be going left diagonally if you view the map as having north up and south down. There's multiple facilities in London researching the fourth dimension, although I'm unsure how far away they are from Surrey Street or Fifth Avenue. Because of this, I find it plausible similar circumstances could exist in this world, possibly even more closely than they did in my research. I'm not sure why Alan is confused, but then again, he doesn't realize he doesn't have to use the prismatic dice for everything, so... Anyways, he's dazed now. Because of the dazed effect, the fight button is gray and has swirls coming out from it. Alan still selects an attack, but now the die is duller and the top of the screen reads, Debuff Intercept, Dazed. Alan rolls low and was too dazed to attack. Seems like you'll have to roll high to even have a chance of attacking. And then I'm guessing you'd probably have to roll again for damage? Wayward dropkicks Alan again, and then Alan got distracted trying to work out the mechanics of Wayward performing a dropkick and didn't defend himself. Don't worry, dude, I already figured out the logistics. Wayward scrambles to come up with its next move. Same. Alan goes to the mind menu, which reminds me. Sign Spin, the Wayward unique mind action, has a chance to inflict dazed onto Wayward, according to some information in the game's Discord. Footage of it was also shown, and in it you could see the same particle effects as the fight button when Alan has dazed, except this time it's coming off of Wayward. The menu description for Sign Spin is shown, which is Spain without the A. While I know this is a joke and Spain likely doesn't legitimately exist, it kind of retroactively justifies my research into London locations. Alan then chooses Focus and to heal. He gets a decent roll and no longer has dazed. Focus can get rid of dazed, and it'll still restore the stat you chose as well. Alan uses Vine Whip on his next turn, and the animation literally looks like Vine Whip, the Pokemon move. Coincidence? I think not. Yeah, probably. Wayward then attacks with Precision. Another typo there. It's corrected in some later footage shown in the Discord, though. You can see Alan consistently choosing to use Focus to heal, which is cool. It's very good that they have a free healing action that'll give you a bit of help in case you happen to roll low while you're out of healing items. We see Alan decide to use the Sacred Cookie, and the text for it reads, It tasted like communion. This supports my thought from earlier that the Sacred Cookie was utilized for services. Also, looks like a Spamton reference as well. Love to see it. Alan's SP is maxed out as a result, but maxed is misspelled. Wayward gives Alan directions again, but it looks like after the first time he does it, there's no more dialogue for that. Alan is dazed once more and thinks about using Firecast, but then decides to use the Shakium Can instead to do damage that he won't have to roll dazed debuffs for. We see the damage save icon come up again, and then Alan focuses to get rid of dazed, and then immediately gets dazed again. He focuses again, and luckily doesn't get dazed again, and then finally uses Firecast. Can't believe he set the funny sign guy on fire. But this was enough to defeat Wayward, and the text box says, Wayward was downed. Before we continue, there was some footage that hadn't been shown in the teaser that was shown in the Discord of attacking using the stick bow. This is the only weapon listed that we haven't seen any footage of. While we didn't see the magic missile in this teaser, it was shown briefly in the second teaser, which didn't show much, but it was still useful to see. There isn't much to analyze with the footage of the stick bow though, but I'm adding it here all the same to make its existence known. Anyways, back to it. Alan earns 200 EXP and 100 hash. XP is listed as EXP here. Either this was unintentional or there's a meaningful distinction like in some other games. It's far more likely to be an accident though. Most games I've seen use EXP as opposed to XP, so it's an understandable mistake. Alan levels up, so there is likely no distinction between XP or EXP, which means it's almost definitely an accident. On leveling up, you can select a stat to level up. There's 6 icons, meaning 6 options. The first one is a transparent heart, and it shows what the HP stat is currently determined by, a D6. The description underneath reads, increases your max HP, your health in battle. I'd assume this rolls a larger die for your HP, or establishes a minimum that your roll adds to. Next is a thing that looks like a blue bottle, and it says that your SP is currently determined by a D4. Then it says, increases your max SP, your capacity to use skills. So they're skill points. That's rather obvious actually. I'm not sure how I didn't think of that earlier. Oops. The SP upgrade is chosen, so we can't see the other stats, but we do know the die that's used for SP rolls becomes a D6, so it appears that it'll upgrade the die instead of establishing a minimum. We can also deduce what the other stats are based on their icons. There's a purple icon that looks like sound waves, which is probably speed if we were to base it off the order of stats in the menu. After that, there's an icon that looks like a crosshair, which likely indicates accuracy or something similar. I'm going to guess it represents reflex, partially because that's next in the stat list, and partially because it's rolled for reading signs and opening chests and whatnot. After that is a shield, which is obviously defense, and also next in the stat list, supporting the theory. The final icon is a square with a yellow cross and darker yellow behind it. I'm guessing that adds to XP plus via process of elimination, and the fact there's no other way I could think of to increase that stat, especially because it's plus 0% as of now. After making a decision, the cutscene for defeating Wayward begins, in which he screams about his defeat and says, "Ow." Wayward, upset, declares he's brought naught but shame to his people who don't exist. He's upset he'll never achieve his dreams of achieving high honor now. 10 years. His sprite still changes when he says high honor, and I think that's cute. He's still in awe of it through his fury. Wayward still doesn't know what high honor is, but he's upset he'll never recover for his loss, and declares it a horrible day for the Hamper Corps. Damn is such a perfect line, and it's such a mood. Wayward in his entirety is a mood, but wow. Wayward warns Alan that his quest for Wayward has no idea what Alan's doing. Alan is confused as to how Wayward even knew he was a disciple, but come on, you're carrying the prismatic dice, dude. Pretty dead giveaway. I would have thought that even without Wayward saying, but that's nice confirmation. Alan says that he was sent to the Blue Moss Fields to go stop some guy there or something. This is a pretty important line. First, it gives us a new location name besides the grasslands where the demo will take place, the Blue Moss Fields. Secondly, it tells us, rather vaguely, what Alan's quest objective is, or at the very least, what his first quest objective is. Thirdly, it tells us Alan has absolutely no idea what he's doing. Alan takes Wayward's explanation of his quest as evidence he's failed miserably because Alan's important. Wayward then decides he will refuse to tell Alan where to go as punishment for beating him up and setting him on fire and whatnot. Alan will never know that going forth will only bring him to the silly man's lair. He'll just waste his time being lost and trying to find the rest of the island, and then he calls Alan a fool. So true. Alan tells Wayward that he just said where to go. Wayward, in an incredibly rules-like moment, declares, "God damn it," and then decides to flee before Alan attacks him more or something. The entire directional gag is very reminiscent of both Papyrus and Rules. Alan, after he's left alone, states he doesn't even have the words. "Don't worry, man, I've got plenty of words. Here's a few. That sign is the best character in this entire game." The cutscene ends and Alan opts not to go north, but I'm very interested in that path. Is the Silly Man the name of the person who lives there? Is it just a title the locals have given them? Or is it something Wayward is calling them? And do they actually have a lair, or is it just their home and Wayward's being overdramatic? Alan then continues to the path on the right, passing another one of those pedestals with the books. If it's a save point, there seems to be one in every room, based on their comprehensive data set of 1, but I can't think of anything else it would be. Alan heads down and the teaser ends. I found this all to be incredibly interesting. This is the most comprehensive teaser we've had yet, and several times longer than the others. While the others, especially the second teaser, gave a more broad look at the game, this is the first time we've actually seen substantial gameplay. This is the first full battle we've seen, and the first time we've seen multiple mechanics. It's exciting to have something new and substantial about the game, and I can't wait to see whatever's next. While I currently can't really do anything with the information at present, I hope to be able to make some theories about the game in the future. I have one rattling around already, but there's hardly enough evidence to present it with any certainty or support until the demo or another teaser releases. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments though. I'm sure I missed something or misconstrued something, and I'd love to know your thoughts as well. If you enjoyed this video, I have other videos on Undertale and Deltarune, and I've got a few videos on other media I enjoy in the works as well. I also have a Ko-fi if you feel inclined to financially support my work, but please don't donate unless you really want to. If you want to follow the Disciples of Aren Geih, join the Discord linked in the description, and subscribe to Brix's YouTube channel for teasers. With all that said, thanks for watching! I'll see you next time. Bye! Also, I freaking love Wayward. If this wasn't apparent, he's simply the best. That's not up for debate. Bye.